Hey guys, welcome to Colton's Collab. I have special guests on today, Maria Kirby and Bryson Kirby of the Elliott group. Thanks for joining me. Hey guys, thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
Let the audience know who you guys are and introduce yourself a little bit.
Yeah, of course. So I'm Maria Kirby. I'm one of the head coaches here with the Elliott group. I've been here for about a year. And Bryson?
Bryson Kirby, likewise. We moved out here together. Been married for 5 years next week.
Yeah.
And we're excited to be here with you guys today. Thanks again, Colton.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for
kicking it in the gym here. So we improvise.
We like to change the environment, keep it fresh.
I was telling them thanks for getting a little good pump in before we got on the show.
Always. Never knew who was watching.
Yeah. What are you guys gonna do for your 5-year?
So we're actually decided that we've been talking for a while now about getting guns.
Uh-huh.
So we were just like, we're gonna switch it up a little bit because we've gone skydiving and stuff. Like we've traveled around and we don't want to take too much time. So we decided we're gonna go gun shopping.
Nice.
Make sure we get our concealed carry and we're gonna go shoot some guns and get dinner.
Nice. Where are you guys going? Do you guys have a spot yet?
No, not yet. So if you have a recommendation.
I may. I don't really go shooting very often, but I know a couple buddies that have a couple good spots down in Fountain Hills here and
Cool.
So
Yeah,
definitely.
absolutely.
Yeah.
That sounds fun. Exotic things like you guys like to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Outside
Cool.
the box a little bit. Andy says keep it new.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to. Tell the audience like where you guys came from, how you guys joined the Elliott group, and we're gonna kind of dive into what you guys do with the Elliott group. But tell your little background story, where you guys came from and how you got here.
Yeah.
I'll start with Bryson.
Yeah.
Sure. So I'm from North Carolina, born and raised there. Met Maria, probably 12 years ago. She moved up from Florida. I'll kind of tell where she's from. She's from Daytona Beach. And we had a class together in high school. That's where we first met each other. And from there...
High school sweethearts. Huh?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've always been in sales since I was a little kid. And so
I gotta ask, who made the first move?
I
Actually
did.
Gotcha.
Yeah, 1000%.
She wasn't all about Bryson.
But I denied him.
Oh,
He asked me for
nice.
$1. Yeah, he
I've
asked
been
me.
handling objections since I was like 14.
Nice.
He tried to come in, ask for the money, and I was like, no, I don't have any money.
You like the persistence, huh?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so then she ended up missing a day of class. She sat right in front of me. And so she messaged me on Facebook or something like that, asking about like the notes and stuff. And me being who I was at the time, I was like, yeah, send me your address. I'll bring it by. And so she sent me her address, and we ended up being 4 houses apart.
Oh, wow.
And we had no idea.
Yeah.
So,
Nice.
yeah.
I thought you were going to say she messaged me on MySpace. I don't
On
know.
MySpace.
I don't know.
I actually never had a MySpace.
I was gonna say, I think that was pretty much over with by the time we were 16.
Because how old are you guys?
26.
Yeah, you're the same age as me, so MySpace was phased out
Yeah,
by,
I was.
by high school.
It was right at the end, the tail
Yeah.
end of MySpace.
Yeah, it's so funny.
So
So then, we did the thing, graduated high school early, went to college, and I own my own business. She worked 2 jobs. That way we could pay for school and stuff. And graduated school. I got a job in construction, and I thought it was what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. It was miserable. I hated it. And so did that for about a year and a half. And then finally I was like, I want to get into sales. Like, I kept hearing all this stuff about how sales is the way out and everything. And so had a family friend, and he owned a small business at the time, and he was still running his appointments, and he was looking to hire a salesperson so he could kind of step away from being like boots on the ground so much. And I was like, well, I want to get into sales. I had never sold. He had never had a salesperson before. So we were like, well, hey, let's just get together and figure this out. So I started there in, June or so of, not last year, but the year before. And first 3 months, we had no idea what we were doing. I was making no money at all, and we had no processes at all. But it was cool because we got to work together and develop a lot of stuff together. And at the time, she was working for a veterinary hospital, and she loved what she was doing, so she just kept doing her thing. And ended up selling, the company did like $300K the year before I came on board. Like I said, super small operation. And then my first year I sold right around 1.8 million, and completely just like boosted where his company was going, and got to build out a lot of that stuff with him. And now they're still killing it today. But to celebrate my success that I had my first year ever being in sales, we decided that we wanted to go to an event. And so I was a big Brad Lee follower. Love Brad. Shout out Brad. And
wait, at the real Bradley.
yeah,
Don't
yeah,
forget.
there you go. Good.
Give him a
Good plug.
follow.
There you go. And so I heard a podcast that Brad was doing with Jeremy Miner and Sam Taggart, and I sent it to Maria, and I was like, babe, fast forward to the last 15 minutes of this episode. I was like, I want to go to this event. It's in Vegas. It's in a month. I was like, we have to be there. And so.
Okay, before you get too ahead though, because then now we're going to have to backtrack back to like my high school days.
Okay, go ahead. Pause there.
We don't go backwards and then forward again.
Yeah, I love it.
So, of course, like you said, we've been together for 10 years and we met in high school. I originally came from Daytona Beach, Florida. That's where I was born and raised until I moved to North Carolina. And after moving to North Carolina, Bryce and I really met like really soon, like a year or two after I had moved there, and we kind of knew of each other. And like he said, we just ended up kind of clicking together. We actually had this class project that we had to do whenever we lived a couple houses down from each other, and I swear to God, he never moved out after that. My parents weren't really around, so he kind of like moved in, and his mom hated it. She, she's like, you guys just play house down there, and
Persistence, dude.
Yeah, we had to stop
I
playing
love
house.
it. Yeah.
But no, and then when I moved to North Carolina, graduated college and stuff, I actually I was in sales for like 10 months. I worked for Lowe's Hardware, and I was selling appliances, and I sold $1.2 million in washers and dryers. And I got all this like praise, and everyone was like, oh, good job. Another guy that was there with me was actually mentoring me. His name was Doug Teague. And Doug?
Yeah.
Teague, yeah. And so he was sold like $1.5 million in appliances. He taught me how to do it.
He'd been doing it for 25 years.
Yeah, he'd been doing it for 25
What was
years.
the age difference in you two, too?
Oh, he was like
50s,
60s.
Yeah.
So he actually retired my final year when he did 1.6, which was like his biggest year, and I did the 1.2, 1.3. He actually retired. And then I left because I realized that I was selling a lot, but I was getting paid $15 an hour to do it. Commission did not exist and still doesn't exist at Lowe's Hardware, which is a massive problem because those guys, including myself, work your butt off.
Yeah.
And you're selling a product, but they don't give any kind of incentive to keep selling. So I got out of it and actually got my dream job as a surgical veterinary technician for 3 years. I did that. So I didn't really make a whole lot of money. I made like $30,000 a year, but I loved what I was doing. I was doing anesthesia, I was learning, working with the veterinarians, and I had a lot of fun with it. So he was kind of the money maker, and I just did my thing and helped the animals.
Right.
And then after a couple years, that's when he got into sales. I think he was in sales for a couple months or maybe about a year.
Probably about 8 months.
And he had been telling me the whole entire time, he's like, you got to get out of this business. You got to get out of this business. Because I'd work 10, 12-hour days. I loved what I did. I worked all week. And like that's just what my life was. I just got up, did my thing, and came home. And that's what I did. And after 1 month, he brought home a paycheck that was my entire year's salary.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I went out.
No more.
Yeah, no more. So then that's when I also started listening, because I wasn't really listening to the podcast. And he, like the way he was thinking was on a different trajectory, because he was surrounding himself and listening to things that I wasn't listening to because I didn't know yet. And so after he brought that home, I was like, man, I got to start listening to these people too, because like what they're telling him is working, obviously.
Yeah.
And so then we both started listening, and that's when he sent me the podcast about Brad Lee and how we actually ended up at Closure School Live, because then at the time, it's the way that things work in life is kind of crazy, because I wasn't ready to hear it yet until I was ready to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were both on the same path of like, okay, now it's time to change. We got to go to another level together. And so even though I wasn't in sales and this was a closer event, I still went because we both saw the value. Number one, I'd never seen Vegas and I love traveling.
Yeah.
I mean, that was also
Yeah.
a motivating factor.
Yeah.
But also I wanted to learn, because I knew that once he brought that paycheck home and my eyes were open to what the potential was, and I knew that I was capable of something else, I was like, man, I'm all in. I want to do something else anyways.
Yeah.
So that's how we ended up at Closure School Live in Las Vegas.
I want
Then-
to talk about that a little bit. I know Andy and Jacqueline talk about it a lot. How important, I'll start with Bryson, how important was it for you, and is it, to get your spouse, your wife in this case, to get on the same wavelength as you and think the same thing and bring her to that seminar that you did?
I will say it's the most important thing. And the reason I say that is because even after sending her the podcast and looking at the tickets, there's like 3 different tiers. There's like $500, $1,800, and then like $6,000. Those are the 3 ticket options that you had. Even after like thinking about it all day, which probably was my first problem, whenever she called me back later that day, I even told her, I was like, babe, I don't know if we should go to this. I was already second guessing the whole thing. I was like, we just now like got to the point where we're saving money. We had a really good year, and I was like, I don't know if we should like spend our money on this. Like a lot of people they have such negative vibes towards these events and stuff like that. And so I was already trying to back out of it. And I even told her, I was like, I might just go general admission. Like you don't even have to come with me. And she was like, well, sorry, I already bought the tickets and they're not refundable, so we're going. And I was like, no way, what tickets did you get? And she was like, well, I got a VIP for myself, talking about her. And she was like, and then I got you the platinum ticket. So in my head, I'm crunching numbers. And I'm like, okay, she just spent $8,000. And I was like, all right, screw it. Like, the money's already gone. Like, we're going all in on this. And so not only did that tell me that she was already, like, bought in with the direction that I was wanting to go, but it pushed us to make a decision that I wouldn't have been able to make on my own, because I was already trying to talk myself out of it. And then two, it fired me up, because I knew like our savings account was just minus $8,000 in 15 seconds. So I was like, all right, I gotta hustle. So I went and closed like 2 or 3 more jobs that day, and I was like, all right, cool, we're good, we're back to where we were. But I think it's everything, because when we talk about this all the time, and Andy does too, where a lot of guys come out here by themselves. They don't bring anyone with them. And when they go home, like, they have all these changes and these revelations, and like now they're into fitness. Now they drop smoking cigarettes, or they cut out alcohol, and now their spouse at home is like, where'd all this come from? I've been trying to tell you to do this for years. Or, oh, you went to some seminar, now you're a new person. And they almost try to like play it off as like sarcastic. And it's like we always say, trying to explain what happens at these events is like trying to explain the color green to a blind person. You can't do it. And so that's why it's so important, because she was there with me. She got to hear exactly what they were saying. She was there for the first conversation I ever had with Andy. She knew exactly how that went. And then because we took the initiative and she got a VIP ticket and didn't just buy like a general admission ticket, because she could have done that, she got to come to all the like platinum bonuses that I got to go to, just because they saw, they're like, wow, this couple's like in this together. So I think it's everything to take your person with you, because like you guys are together to like do life together, not just do part of life together. And so, I mean, since then, like, we do everything together. And I mean, I think that's why we work so well together, because people ask us all the time, and I'm sure you will too, is like, how do you work together as a couple? Well, it's because like we're on the same mission. We've always been like that.
And this actually isn't, surprisingly enough, this isn't our first job that we've had together. We've had a couple jobs over the years that we've been together. So we worked at a grocery store, Lowe's Foods, together when we were in high school. So like I was a cashier and he worked in produce. We were in the same store though. And then we
That's my first job.
and then at one point we worked at Lowe's Hardware together. So I was actually like a front end like supervisor, and then he worked down in
Building materials.
Building materials, like hauling lumber and stuff for people, and like getting special orders and stuff together. So again, we like worked in the same building.
So you guys are truly like day ones. That's awesome.
But one thing that we took from that, one thing that we took from that though, is a lot of the times when we did work in places, we had separate roles in what we were doing. We weren't doing the same role, and that's what a lot of people, especially couples in business, is a massive mistake. Is they keep stepping on each other's toes, and they're wanting, and I'm guilty for this. I'll be straight up. I'm so guilty of like when I'm not winning, I'll turn around and be like, "What are you doing? What are you spending your time doing right now?" And he's like, "I'm DMing," and I'm like, "Well, shouldn't you be doing something else?" And like you can't do that. I have to be very conscious of like when it is that I'm actually falling short, and it's really not him, but like I'm trying to blame him. And so many people will do that, and they'll just pick at each other. But the biggest thing is like I have to remember that I've got a job and I have to stay in my lane, and he has his job and he has to stay in his lane. And if we start to cross and try to do each other's jobs, there's going to be conflict there. And so many people want to do that, or they think that they can do it better, or this other significant other isn't moving or growing fast enough. But and when it comes to business or life in general, you kind of grow at different times. Like sometimes he's growing and I'm not growing as much. And then I get frustrated and I'm like, well, shoot, he's growing. Now I got to start growing. And then he kind of slows down, but I'm growing like super fast. And then he steps up, and you kind of like flow with each other. You don't usually grow at the same time. And definitely don't want to not be growing at the same time.
Absolutely.
There's never really that happening. But it's just something that you have to work at. But I think for a lot of people too, being in business together doesn't necessarily mean that you're running a company together like we are, like Andy and Jackie, or like Alex and Layla Ramosi. Like sometimes the dynamic's different. Like we've seen, Bradley and his wife Melissa, they run a different dynamic, but like Melissa's a badass. She runs everything on the back, and she takes care of the girls. Every time that there's an event, she's helping coordinate everything with Brad and with Brad's assistant Maria. Like she's all in that aspect of things. And then of course Brad has the main businesses. He's got a couple different companies that he's running at the same time, but they have their different roles. And so Melissa takes care of everything on the back that people don't see, that people don't appreciate a lot of the times. But Brad sees it. He appreciates how much Melissa does, but he's also doing the business side. But Melissa never comes into business, and Brad never tells Melissa how to be a better mom, or how to do things better at the house, or how to run events better. Like he doesn't do those things because they understand what their roles are, and it works really well. And a lot of people don't have, they need that understanding if they're going to work together.
Yeah.
And not everyone is meant to work together in business. Like I said, working in business together, but having the same dynamic as like Brad and Melissa is very different, but they both still require you guys to do life together. And that's why when we have events like the couples mastermind coming up, the conversation isn't necessarily how do you open a business together, it's
Right.
how do you run your entire life together,
Right.
because it all bleeds together.
Mhm.
So many people are like, you got to have work-life balance, you got to keep work at work and keep stuff at home. Yeah, you do, and you have to always be where your feet are, which is super important, but that stuff all bleeds together.
Right.
Andy still has to answer the phone whenever he's with his kids. You know, Jackie still has to answer her phone when she's with the kids or when they're not at the office. Now, they make the time to say, hey, I'm not going to do this right now. I'm going to set my phone down, which is super important. But they also still, all of it's still going to come together. The kids are very involved in the business as well. You'll see the kids running around here. They're all Elliott shirt out. They're at
Yeah.
every single event that they have. The kids, half the time, they travel with them too. Jackie and Andy are always traveling together. But that's the dynamic they have. And not everyone is, that's not their path. That's not their way of doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. You talk about everyone wearing Elliott stuff and
Yeah.
Elliott gear. I know Andy talked about that last seminar that I attended. How important do you think, if you're a business owner, I realized not a lot of business owners wear their own stuff, wear their own gear. It's crazy to me.
Yeah.
So ever since I heard that a couple years back, I'm like, I'm wearing Firehouse pest control stuff where I go because I get so many conversations about like, hey, what's going on with this? Like, what do you do? And it just opens up a whole realm of new customers, relationships, and everything. How important do you guys think to wear that Elliott shirt around is for you guys as well?
Yeah, it's super important, and I fall short a lot, and you'll see Jackie a lot too because we dress more like executive style.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit harder to incorporate that way, but Andy always has an Elliott shirt on. He always has an Elliott shirt of some kind. Elliott Army, whatever fitness division, something that has to do with, or a previous event shirt on, something that has to do, and it's super important. And that was really one of the ways, and not just that, but also the energy that we have and the way that we carry ourselves in public. We carry ourselves in public in the way that we do things the same way that we do in business. But to kind of like come full circle back around how we actually got here, and branding is super important. But when we were at the event, that was one thing. You know, Andy had an Elliott shirt on. Everyone that was on the team before we even knew them, they all had elite sales training, polos on, or some kind of Elliott gear on. And anywhere that you went inside the hotel or anywhere you went around the hotel, you knew exactly who they were. Just the way that they carried themselves, just the branding and stuff that they had on. But we'll come back to that. But to finish how we got here, we went to that event, and Andy actually stood there and had a conversation with us. And you might want to pick up from here because this is kind of like where your story.
Yeah, so that event was the first time I ever heard Andy, and didn't even know the guy before. Like, I found out that he was speaking. He was actually filling in for one of the guys that I wanted to see speak. And so at first I was kind of bummed out, and then I saw he was in automotive, and I was like, okay, like a car guy, whatever. I literally told myself that.
Yeah.
So I was already like downplaying it. And then I heard him speak, and I was like, wow. Like, I want anything to do with this guy.
Right.
And so because of where my seat was situated, like I was as close to the stage as you could get. And at that setup, they walked off like right off the front of the stage, like in front of us.
Oh.
And so I like beelined it to the bottom of those stairs because I was like, I need to talk to this guy. And he had said one comment on stage that kind of like rewired my thinking. And one of the only things that Marie and I ever fought about for all 9-10 years that we've been together was I used to smoke marijuana. And I wasn't just like a casual smoker. Like, I did it all day, every day, before the gym, before work, at lunch, when I got home, before I went to bed. Like, yeah, this is what I did.
Right.
And like she said earlier, I was quote unquote like the breadwinner of the house. And so like, and I was still working out and stuff. I thought I was cool, man. I was like one of the most successful people in my family at the age of 20 years old. And so I was like, you know, like, I'm good. I'm just doing my thing. And that was before I started thinking like bigger and stuff. And so Andy said something, and I was like, damn, like I'm holding myself back. And so I made the decision that day that I wasn't going to smoke anymore. And that was the first thing I ever told Andy. As soon as he came off stage, I was like, I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't even know you existed 24 hours ago. But after hearing you speak, I was like, you said something that resonated with me that made me decide that I don't need to smoke marijuana anymore. And he was like, dude, I freaking love that. And so that moment, 300 people waiting to talk to him, he stands there and has like a 5-minute conversation with me, which he didn't have to do. And he gives me his cell phone number. He starts a group chat with Marie and I. And he was like, this is going to be your accountability group chat. Anytime you think about smoking, I want you to text me and tell me about it, so then I can call Maria and tell her to run home and smack the shit out of you. And I was like, dude, I love it. I'm in. And so since then, like, we still have that group chat going today. And I texted him probably once a week for the next month after that event. And I was like, hey, man, another week down. I haven't thought about it, whatever. And so, like, he just loved it. Every time, like, I just stuck to the decision that I made. And honestly, when he called me to bring me on board to the team, that's what he told me. He was like, I really don't even know, like, how good you are at sales. And he said, but I really don't care. He said, the fact that you can make a decision like that and you can actually stick to it, he said, because a lot of people talk, but not a lot of people actually back it up. And he said, I've been watching you and you've been staying in touch with me. He said, the fact that you stuck to that decision that you've been doing for 9 years, like, you have every excuse in the book to just be like, oh, well, whatever, I've been doing it this long anyway.
Right.
And he's like, the fact that you didn't means that, like, you have character and you have heart. And he was like, that's what I love. That's what I look for. And he was like, if you can't sell, I can teach you how to sell. And he was like, but you spent 20 grand in one weekend, so it's like, you're doing something. And I was like, cool, like, I love it. What do I need to do? And he was like, well, you need to move to Scottsdale, Arizona. And so, like I said, we were in North Carolina at the time. We're 21 I guess at that point we're 24. We bought our house at 21, and so we were like, damn, what are we going to do? And so we literally put together like a 6-week plan of when we were going to leave and head out to Arizona. And literally 10 days later, all of our stuff was packed up, and we had the truck packed up in the driveway, the car was packed up, and from there we were just like there's no reason to stay like any longer. And so we called all of our family. We said, hey, we're leaving tomorrow. You guys can come to the house in the morning if you want to see us. And we sold our house and started driving. Drove 32 hours across the country.
That's awesome. And you guys left your family and everything? They're over there still?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I would say about half of them have flown out to like see us at different times.
Yeah.
So that's cool. And we planned like a little trip to go back in September, which will be right at a year since we moved out here, just to go back and see them for a couple of days. But yeah, we just made the decision. Again, it just comes down to making a decision and taking action. That's what Andy talks about all the time. So
Yeah, and of course, I didn't get recruited right away. So we both come out here, and I was going to do real financial.
Uh-huh.
Started doing that, done it a couple weeks, and came out. And I think the first weekend we were here, or the second weekend, whatever it was, there was a master closer seminar. So he was working it, of course, and then anyone that's in the LA group that has a significant other or whatever, they're always invited to come out and just help run the events.
Uh-huh.
So I come out, and I already knew as soon as I got here that I was down here, and I was like, I told Bryson, I was like, I don't want to be in the basement alone anymore. I don't want to be down here. I was like, I want to figure out a way to make it happen. I was like, I don't know what it looks like. I know that I suck at selling, but I'll freaking figure it out.
Yep.
And so we go to the seminar, and we're all Elliott out, we're all fired up and stuff. There's a couple hundred people that are doing this workout, and a lot of people come here because they're ready to change.
Right.
And so this particular event, we had quite a few people that was kind of hot, and they couldn't get all the way up. We did this mountain run, and they couldn't get all the way up the mountain. So I'm going back and forth, up and down the mountain, like trying to grab people and like push them up because it's hot. So if something happens, like no one's going to be out there. So we always have someone that like trails at the end. And every seminar, always at the end now, it's just something that I do. If you ever come and actually do one of our mountain runs with us, I'm always at the end running back and forth. And so I go and I'm back and forth up and down this mountain probably 9 or 10 times.
not a part of the Elliott group.
Not a part of the Elliott group yet. But I was like, God, these people are like, they're struggling to get up this mountain, like barely creeping up. So I'm going up and down to grab people, and we get through the whole entire, finally everyone's out of the mountain. And after the mountain run, we always do like a circuit afterwards. So Earn It All had just came into the Elliott group. We actually weren't even partnered yet. Justin Cross and Adam were actually the only two that were part of Earn It All and had just kind of started growing. And so we weren't even doing their workout yet. We were doing more of like a group workout. They weren't running it yet. So we're doing this workout, and I mean, I am kicking my butt, and it's hot. And so finally, by the end of the workout, I end up standing up and straight passing out, hitting my head on the concrete.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so,
It's our first
and then
weekend
all of
here.
a sudden,
Oh my gosh.
and then I just, like, I remember blacking out, and then I'm laying on the ground, apparently, and I just remember, like, starting to shake, and then, like, my whole body is shaking. And so, like, I don't know if it was a seizure or what was happening because I don't remember everything, but Adam is actually one of our coaches now, and he came from, like, a military medical background. So he's, like, there, and I just remember seeing him and then not seeing him, and then finally waking up and, like, being able to stand up. 911 was there, and ambulance was there. I'm sitting in the cooler, and it doesn't have ice or anything in it. It's just kind of, like, lukewarm water, and so I'm, like, sitting in this cooler, trying to eat a protein bar.
And this is the first time.
This
you
is
ever
the
dealt with
first
this
time,
heat?
yeah. Yeah, this is the first time we were out here.
How was it? 110 at that time?
It was in September.
It was in
Oh, okay.
September, yeah. So it was starting to cool down, but it was like our first experience out here.
Yeah.
Everyone,
And so-
but that's the whole thing, is everyone was saying, oh, it's just the heat. The heat
Yeah.
got to her. The heat got to
Yeah.
her. And then finally, Andy like piped up, and he was like, no. He was like, y'all have this way wrong. He was like, the reason she did that is because she pushed herself literally to her max potential. She was like, no one else out here did that. And it just like went to show like how much more we all have to give. And so like that's honestly like, and Andy even says this, like that's honestly why he was cool with bringing her on board, because he was like, if anyone's willing to push themselves physically until they literally pass out, he was like, they have so much to give in all these other areas of life and business and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And
Got
so then,
yourself a badass, dude.
yeah.
dude, she's savage.
Yeah.
Well, then the following weekend after that, I had the biggest
Can I
thing.
say
was-
something?
Yeah.
That's why I was pushing her so long ago to get into sales, because this is her demeanor. This is how she's been literally since we got together. When we were in college, she was the type that would literally stay up all night studying for a test, and because she had to be prepared for it, she wanted to do the best she could. If she had a paper due in 6 weeks, she would write it this week and then rewrite it next week and then rewrite it.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Like she would take it to the teacher and be like, "Hey, can you read this and tell me how I can make it better?"
Yeah.
Like she just over exceeds at everything she does. She wasn't even qualified to be a surgical tech, but she went to them and was like, "I can do this better than all your people if you teach me." And
Yeah.
sure as shit, she was the best person that they had. Like they loved her. And so like I knew if she just got her on the right group and the right support system, she would become a badass.
Mhm.
And sure enough, like she runs all my Zoom calls because she just destroys people. And,
Yeah.
like she just has this confidence about
Yeah.
her. So yeah, I mean, I knew, and that's what I told Andy and Jackie too. I was like, look, she don't know what she's doing now, and I was like, but when she figures it out, like she's gonna be a force to be reckoned with, because it's like it's just in her DNA. It's how she runs. So
And that's a big thing. A lot of people reach out to Andy and Jackie and they're like, hey, I want to work for you, I want to work for you, I want to work for you. And they send all of these qualifications over about how they're like a killer and they've done X, Y, and Z for their company. And Andy and Jackie don't care about that. None of us are qualified to
Right.
be here. None of us reached, like we weren't good at all. We sucked. We were, can I say, I don't know if I can go somewhere. We
Yeah.
sucked. Okay. We were dog shit. It was
Yeah.
bad. And so after that moment, the everyone thinks Andy is the face of the company, but Jackie is she's
brain.
so
She's
smart.
everything.
She's the
Yep.
brain. She's the one that really makes the decisions on who comes into the company. Andy does too, but Jackie is really, really good at reading people. And so I ended up going into her office, and Sean was a massive supporter in this. Sean actually really from like day one was like, we're gonna get you into the LA group. We're gonna get you, which Jackie doesn't know this.
it's our VP.
Yeah, it's our VP. But Jackie didn't really know, but it was really Sean who was like, I told Sean, I was like, I know I gotta do something different. This insurance thing, it's not for me. I know that I'm meant to be here. I know that we wouldn't have come out here if we weren't both meant to be here. And he 1,000% agreed. He's like, you guys are gonna kill it. You're gonna team sell. Like we're gonna make it happen somehow. But he was like, but you have to ask Jackie because I can't make the decision. You have to ask Jackie. So I get in front of Jackie, and
This is week 2 that we're here.
yeah, it's like week 2. I get in front of Jackie. I'm sitting in front of her office, and I'm like, hey, I want to work for you guys.
Right.
And she's like, okay. You know, she wasn't quite sold on it.
Yeah.
Andy was, but
Yeah.
because Andy's like the good cop. He's like the dad that
Yeah.
says yes to everything. And Jackie's like the mom that says no to everything. 'cause
And she's more strict on letting women
Yeah,
in
she
the group
is.
as well, correct?
Yeah. And not for any other reason than Jackie didn't, and I'm the same way. This is so interesting because she just talked about this at her last event.
Mhm.
And one big thing about Jackie is, and I thought the same thing, was that we just really didn't believe that there were women like us. And I've never had a lot of women friends because I just didn't believe any of them were like me.
Right.
But then I met Jackie, and the more that her and I've had conversations, the more that I've realized that we're actually a lot alike. The way that we think, the way that we react things, the way that we think through things, and solve problems, we're actually very similar to each other. And that was a big thing for Jackie, was that she's so hesitant on bringing women in because she just said, you know, I didn't think women were like me, and I was the same way. I never let anybody in. So now, though, I have a different perspective from business and being around Selena, and we have some badass women, Marielle, Jesse, who run the show. They do more like our admin stuff, but they run the show. And yeah, Jennifer Pollard, she runs all of our seminars. She's awesome. She's been here from day one with Sean Pollard. And now we're a whole group of women. And then, of course, to be able to handle an Elliott group guy, because the guys on the Elliott group are just a whole nother level. The way that they're driven, they're focused on business, the way that they treat their families is very different. So the women, of all of the guys are very tough too, and we're all kind of similar. We're different but similar in the way that we run, the way that we operate. So there's a whole group of women, and so there's this transition like a year ago with Jackie, because I remember her telling me, no, 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 I don't want to bring anybody in. It was just for the simple fact that she didn't want conflict because it was mostly male dominant,
Right.
and of course she didn't want to cause any issues with any of the guys. But also she just didn't feel anyone was suited to fit the role. And so when I went to her in her office and she's like, well, why do you think that you should be here? Jackie hires off heart, not because you know what you're doing.
Right.
And a big thing that for me, I grew up in Daytona Beach, Florida, but all of my parents are addicts. My dad's an alcoholic, my mom's do pills, and my stepdad's been a crack addict for his entire life. I grew up in a trailer park. We didn't have a whole lot. And moving to North Carolina, you know, my mom moved there because my grandfather was passing away, and she saw an opportunity to get out of Florida. That's really how I ended up in North Carolina. My stepdad had relapsed, and literally the day I remember sitting in a gas station parking lot, and my mom got a phone call finally from my stepdad, and he's like, okay, I'm ready. And he was bad. And so we take him with us, we go to North Carolina, and things were good for a while, but it never stopped. And my family is super important to me, and I've invested a lot of my life into my family. I was always the person where anytime there was a fight or anytime there was a conflict, I was right in the middle of it, making sure that nothing really bad happened. And some bad shit happened. And so when I moved here, I got a phone call the day after I moved here, and my dad, after like 6 or 7 years, relapsed again. And I told Jackie, I said, if I would have got that phone call and I wouldn't have left, I wouldn't be here. I would have never packed the car up. I would have never sold the house. I would have stayed for my family because they're important to me. And because of that, I reacted the same exact way as I was trying to tell her this. And she said, okay. She said, and what are you going to do? I said, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I know that if you just give me an opportunity, I'll figure it out. And we'll be the best. We will. So she gave us a chance. She gave me a chance. She gave Bryson a chance. Andy and Jackie gave us both a chance. They didn't ever hesitate either. It was so fast the way that it happened. I think there's just something so special about Jackie and Andy that when they look at somebody, they know that they've been through some shit, and they know that if someone would just give them a chance. And I remember, I've never been religious, but I remember some days when it got really hard, I remember just asking for a chance. And I don't even know who I was asking because I wasn't religious. I remember when I was a kid and I watched the stuff that my mom went through with my dad and my stepdad. I remember asking some being for someone who never treated me like that, who would always support me in everything that I did. And somehow I ended up with Bryson. And I didn't even know what I was doing, but I was asking for these things. And that's why a lot of the times when people have really tough times, or they're struggling in business, or they are struggling with their teams, or they have 10,000 things going on, well, they forget that they asked for that life. And so we asked for this life. We wanted this to be hard. We wanted someone to give us a chance, and we never complain. Every workout, no matter how hard I get, no matter how lightheaded I get, no matter what challenge I get put in front of with the team, no matter how nervous or shook up I get, I'm like, I asked for this. This is exactly what I wanted. And that keeps us going. So that was what, why Andy and Jackie even gave us a chance in the first place. And a big thing for us is that we never want to disappoint them. The best thing, and we're pretty close with Andy and Jackie, but not like all everyone's got kind of a different relationship with them. But the best thing that we get is when in our group chat that started when we were in Las Vegas, when we get a text in there that says, we're proud of you guys. That's everything to us.
Right.
It's like your mom and dad telling you that they're proud of you. That's really all you need. And the more that they tell us that they're proud of us, the harder we want to push, because we want to keep hearing that they're proud of us, because we want to be contributors to this company and this movement, because this isn't just the Elliott Group.
Yeah.
It's a whole movement.
Yeah, absolutely. That's an amazing story, and it all started with just, a summit that changed your guys' life. It come full circle, and you guys been through it all, and that's kind of what I wanted to pivot into, and what I ask all my guests is, what is, you guys can answer this together or separately. What's Bryson and Maria's why? Why do you guys do things on a daily basis? Kind of touched on with your story, and I appreciate you sharing. That's huge.
Yeah.
I know that was hard. What is your why? Why do you guys do things on a daily basis? Why do you guys want to continue to grow with the Andy Elliott Group, and personally as well?
Yeah, I think for me, my biggest thing is that because it didn't come from anything, I know what it's like to not have anything. but I also know what it's like when someone gives you an opportunity and believes in you, and no one believed in us. I mean, my mom's around. She's doing really well for herself, but no one really was like, "Hey, you're gonna change people's lives." No one told me that when I was growing up. No one said that you can have a good living, that you can impact people. No one believed in anything that we were doing, and not maybe they didn't mean to not believe in us. And even when we were moving out here, we had so many people that said, why are you doing that? Why would you leave your $150,000 job to move out to Arizona and not make any money? Because at the end of the day, it's not about the money. But I think for me, my why is that I want people to understand that they're built for so much more. And if I can take that feeling that I have and that confidence that I have, and I can transfer that into someone else and to get them to make a decision that they're built for more, that they just need to know more. They don't have the kind of educations. No one's teaching them the right way. They're teaching them the wrong ways of how to build relationships and how to run a business. So if I could just get anyone to believe that they're built for more, that's all that I want. I want people to believe in themselves, because that's such a superpower now. Mm-hmm. Being able to believe in yourself, that you can do great things, is a superpower that so many people are missing. Mm-hmm. The world has you brainwashed that you're meant to just make $60K and raise babies and have a house and a white picket fence, and we had that. It's not what it's all chopped up to be. Mm-hmm. That's how people, you just end up, we really, literally, part of what triggered all this was we were just at home one day and we were like, what are we doing? Like Rob Bailey says, he's got a song, he's like, you got the house and the dog and the 401k. Like, that's what we had. But I spent a lot of time hiding what my past was and hiding who I was, because I was trying to appease other people. Mm-hmm. Not anymore. Quite frankly, I am who I am, and I don't care what other people think, because I know that there's people just like me out there. There's other people that are hurting, and there's other people that need me to tell them that they're built for more.
Yeah, I think mine is, I always wanted to, even when I was a little kid, I would tell my grandmother this, I always wanted to help people either get out of whatever situation they're in, or just better themselves overall. But, I think a lot of people struggle with this, is like they never see the value in themselves to be able to actually go and do something, especially something like that. Because I was always like, well, how am I, Bryson, going to be able to go out and help anybody? How am I going to be able to go make a change in someone's life? Like, no one knows who I am. What have I done to be able to deserve the opportunity to go and do that? And so then it literally hit me, like, probably the second week that we were here, I was like, this is it. I was like, Andy's developed a platform that's giving me the opportunity to be able to go and do that. And so now all I have to do, like, he's paved the way. He's made it super simple for all of us, because now all we have to do is just develop our brand within the company. And then because of Andy and his brand, people are going to be attracted to us and what we do. And, like, that's how we got connected. Mm-hmm. Like, you and I didn't know each other a month ago. And it's like, now we talk every week. Right. And so it's like, just because of that, like, now I have an opportunity to kind of dive into what you're doing. Right. And we're going to go blow up what you're doing. So then you can move on to other things in life that you really want to get to. Right. So it's like, stuff like that, like, really gets me fired up, because I was always told, just go to school, get a good job, don't get in trouble, like, you'll be good. And I did all that. And then I was like she said, we were literally sitting at home one day, probably drinking alcohol, because that's what we did. We just sat at home and drank. And we were like, this can't be it. Like, we were 21 years old, and we were like, there's got to be something else out there. There's got to be more than this. And so she would always say, I want to help people, I want to travel the world, and I want to make money. And I was like, that doesn't exist. Right. I was like,
you really said that because of, like, I even looked to trying to, like, volunteer at halfway houses and stuff, because I come from a family of addicts, and so that really resonates with me. And we get people who have addiction problems that reach out to us all the time, because what Andy says to them resonates with them. And I just, every single day we pass this halfway house and go to the gym, and I remember every morning I'd look in the window and I'd see people sitting there. I'm like, man, those people are in so much pain. Like, imagine if you could give them something that could just make them believe. And I know addiction's we're not even going to get into the topic because it's so in-depth, but addiction is a disease. It's what it is. And once you start, it's hard to stop. It's just like anything else. But, I mean, people are addicted to a lot of things. We're addicted to winning. We're addicted to working out. We're addicted to, like, what's that next level? We don't ever want to stop. We don't ever want to get used to where we're at. But he's right. I would sit back and I remember listing those things off to him well before we were listening to podcasts. And like, I know there's a way I can help people. I know there's a way that I can travel around the world. Yeah, I was like, I know there's a way that we could make a good living. There's gotta be, and it was so hard. We really didn't think that it existed until we met Andy.
I envy you guys because it only took you guys until 21 years old that you guys need to go to the next level. I mean, Andy speaks about it too. It took him a long time to know that he needs to drop some things and go to the next level. I don't know how old was he when he really took it to the next level. Do you remember what he said?
39.
39, yeah.
He's 43.
What do you guys think clicked in your head at 21 years old? I know there's probably many reasons, but what do you think clicked so early in life that where you guys knew, hey, there's more out there for us?
Yeah, Bryce and I are pretty in tune to watching people, and that's one thing a lot of people don't do is they don't watch enough. They don't pay attention to what's happening around them. And we spend a lot of time watching our families, watching the way they operate, watching how they've gotten from where they were to where they are, how we grew up. But I would say too, another thing was that very early on, we realized we needed a mentor. And we had a mentor before we left. And there was something, which this is just crazy how this stuff works out. I remember before we ever even bought tickets to Bradley, we were sitting down and he kept trying to get us to sell our house. And we're like, we're not selling our house. I don't get it. We're not selling our house. What is up with you wanting for us to sell our house? Because he's like, and he'd always come to us. And I don't know what it was, but he's kind of a strange guy. But he was always like, I believe in you guys. You know, I know that you guys are going to do some big shit. He's like, you know, and he just kept, every time we'd get together, he'd like throw a new idea at us of like, well, what if you guys did this? What if you guys did that? And he was always giving us these ideas because he saw something that we didn't see. And I'm so grateful for him now. We don't have a relationship with him anymore, unfortunately, just based on the way that the events went. But he would always come up with these big, grand ideas of like things that we could do. And we never really listened to him until the one where we were sitting at dinner. And
this was like days before that podcast.
Days before the podcast. Yeah. I was like, man, we got this guy. He's like, who are you guys watching lately? And we're like, oh yeah, we're watching Alex and Layla Ramosi, Bradley. And we're like bringing these people up that we've been listening to, Ryan Stewman. I was like, man, what it'd be so crazy if we could go meet one of them, especially Brad. Like, Brad was our favorite. And we're like, man, what if we could go meet Brad? And all of a sudden I was like, nah, that shit will never happen. We'll never be on Brad's level. We'll never be able to get to hang out with him or anything. And our mentor was like, what? You've like, because I've never said anything like that. He's just like, what do you mean? Does not like you to even think that way. And I was like, wow, okay, yeah, you're right. I don't know why I'm thinking that. And then a couple days later when the tickets dropped, that was kind of the motivator for like, well, I'm all in. I want to figure this out. He's like, you should go and meet him. You should go and have dinner with him. He's like, every single person out there is more attainable than you think they are. A lot of people think that Andy's not attainable, that they can't get in front of him, and they can. He's right here in Scottsdale, Arizona. The door's unlocked. Colton walked right in today.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people don't realize Brad, he's just right in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Alex and Layla Ramosi, same thing. Like, they're right there. They're so attainable to just get in front of, but so many people don't go about it the right way, or they're too scared.
I think that's huge because going back to like the getting your spouse on the same wavelength is huge, because I just walked in here, I brought you guys all breakfast burritos, and I went to a couple Andy Elliott events by myself, and I didn't bring my spouse. I could only tell her so much when I went home, and then I brought her and my son, brought all you guys breakfast burritos, and she stepped into Andy and Jacqueline's office like everyone would dream of doing, and they're right here in Arizona, and he gave some advice, and ever since then she's the biggest Andy Elliott fan and Jacqueline fan, and so it's awesome to be on the same wavelength and meet a guy so prominent and growing so fast where I could just step in his office. He's willing to give value to anyone, anytime. That's why I admire you guys' group, is because every one of you guys is just like him. I'm so authentic, and that's what I envy of you guys too. So
we're never too good for anybody.
No, absolutely not. Yeah. Everyone needs some sort of value, and that's huge. Thank you guys. I appreciate you doing that. I wanted to end it. So where can people find you, and what is the Andy Elliott group all about? I know you guys are mostly sales oriented, but what is the Andy Elliott group all about, if you want to tell the audience?
Yeah, so I would say as far as finding us, Andy is at official Andy Elliott on Instagram. He's on all platforms if you don't already follow him. I'm at Bryson Kirby. Maria's at official, because she's official Maria Kirby. Those are the Instagram platforms. You can get to Facebook from those. And then if you would like to reach out to us just to have a conversation, talk, get to know us a little bit better, you can text Maria at 828-291-3551. And then as far as the Elliott Group, really we are a personal development company, and that was one thing that I learned very early on in sales. Is a lot of people think sales is just about the money, but I heard this from Ryan Stewman one time, and then when he said it, I was like, wow, that's so true. Is sales is a personal development program that just happens to have a compensation plan attached to it. Because once you get into sales, that's when you realize, like, if you're not constantly trying to develop yourself and keep leveling up, you will get left behind. No matter what level you're on, no matter how good you are or how good you aren't, if you're not constantly chasing for that next level, someone else out there is. And there's a chance that they're going to be doing exactly what you're doing one day. And if you don't use that as a driving force to keep reaching for more, then you will get left behind, no matter how good you think you are right now. And so as far as the Elliott Group, Andy's kind of built a movement, like Maria said earlier, on just leveling up in all areas of your life. That's like the fitness company that we partner with. It's called Earn It All, and it's for a reason. The reason is so many people, let's call this business, and this is your health and your relationships. So many people go so hard after business that they give this stuff up. They look up in 10 years and they're out of shape, and now they have a health risk and they're not going to live, if they don't fix it. Or they lose their family and now they're divorced and their kids don't even know who they are because they went so hard after business. And so we have such a strong belief that you really can have it all. But you can't just have it, you have to go out and earn it. So that's where Earn It All comes into play. And so whether it's sales training, personal development, life coaching, fitness training, whatever it is where you feel like you lack in life, like, give us a call, shoot us a text. We can help guide you in the right direction. It might not be us personally, but if we can't do it, we know someone that can. And that's really all we're striving to do, is just get you guys connected with whatever you need to get you to that next step. And then we're going to help hold you accountable and make sure that you get there. Because once you partner up with us, like, you're part of the brotherhood, the sisterhood, and we will not let you fail. That's what we do.
Yeah, that's awesome. These guys are top-notch guys. I appreciate everything they do. If you guys definitely need them in their life. I appreciate you guys joining me today's show. Maria, you're a badass. Bryson, you're okay.
Yeah.
You're okay. But
Good cop, bad cop.
Yeah. Power couple right here, guys. Learn from them. I soak it all in every time we speak every week. I love the opportunity. Even if we get 1-2 texts in, I appreciate your friendship so far, and you guys are awesome. So thanks for listening, guys. I appreciate it. Have a great day. Crush it.